I'm the CEO of the Alliance. A couple of years ago, Mary and I and Andrew really started talking about what does it look like to help small businesses grow. We're going to have 5 workshops in which we are going to be breaking down different segments of the library's resources and how it can help you grow your small business.
We'll have 5 sessions. Okay, so we'll kick it off with the first panel.
I'm Scott Hodgin from Tilt. We're focused on branding, so I will probably be taking those arrows and bullets for that.
Chelsey Blankenship with CLB Consulting. I'm a marketing consultant working with small businesses, mostly digital marketing, social media management, website management, email marketing.
Hey, I'm Jeremy Beyt with 368, and we're a creative agency. We touch a little bit of all of this.
And I'm David Day. I own and operate the Day Group. I'm a group of 1 now. I've transitioned into a fractional CMO from being a full service ad agency. I work with clients on a sort of a temporary project by project basis. I kind of come in and sub as their chief marketing officer for a 6 to 18 month stint. But I also do marketing and advertising projects on the side. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm so excited to have this panel here today. So, you know, panel 1 is called Clearing the Fog. What are we actually paying for, right? And this whole day is really about what to do before you hire a marketing agency. And this has really kind of come from some of the conversations I've had with each of these people, but also the conversations that I've had internally with my own teams as a small business owner, trying to make decisions about buying marketing. But we're going to start with the first question. So in your own words, what's the difference between branding, marketing, and advertising? And why does that matter for a small business to understand that? Who wants to jump in first?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll go. Branding is my passion. I love to brand, but this is the way I look at it. Branding, marketing, and advertising. And I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer to this, to be honest with you. It depends on who you're talking to. But the way that I like to express it is that marketing is the big picture, the overall piece. Marketing is a segment of business. You've got accounting and you've got, operations, and marketing is a segment of business. Within that segment, there's advertising, there's branding, there's lead generation, there's all kinds of things that fall underneath that piece. So the marketing, to me, marketing is the big piece. And then within that piece, you have different disciplines. Branding is the effort to build your company's name and image to top of mind, basically. And there are a lot of studies out there that show that the companies that are recalled first get the most business. And I've actually done a little bit of research on that. But I believe that a brand is anything people think or feel when they see or hear your name.
Okay, thank you, David. Anything you guys want to add on to that?
No, I mean, that was succinctly put. The other way I like to think of it is that, again, branding is everything, right? So phone call, if you go to the Apple store, your interactions with people that work there, you're touching the products. When that thing fails and you get customer support, that's all part of branding. So what we focus on, what this group primarily focused on, would be more of the visual branding. You as a business owner are just as involved in the creation of the brand as anything we would do. So if you want to kind of think what David was saying, so kind of different pieces, marketing, accounting, all that stuff are like peas in the pod, and that big pod is your brand. It's everything. And so what we do as designers and branding, what we do is really kind of invisible until it interacts with marketing. Marketing allows the brand to become visible. That makes sense. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think of everything in analogies, so I'll just use a dating analogy for how I think about this question. But for me, like, branding is answering a lot of like, who am I? And if you're on the market, if you're single, and you have to start with, who am I, right? Like, what am I into? For me, maybe it's, I like music, I like to hike, I like outdoorsy things. So starting with your identity and the who, and then moving into marketing is sort of identifying, like, what are the parties, the concerts, the trails, the parks that I'm going to go to and show up at in order to introduce myself. And then advertising is the pickup line that you come up with when you get there.
Nice.
And for me, that's the easiest way to, like, layman's term the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think marketing after the branding is done, marketing are the mediums that you use to share your brand. So a marketing plan, a 12-month marketing plan might have a lot of different things, as everyone has mentioned, underneath it. And you share your defined brand in all those different ways, and that helps to tell your story. And then paid advertising, you pay to help get that story out there.
Yeah, that's great. So I love what you guys were saying, and it feels like I think before, or as a small business owner in the earlier years, I would always get those terms kind of confused, right? And it was always like, and there's something you guys were just saying, and we're gonna go to the group in a little bit for a few questions. But one of the things I heard was like the authenticity of the brand, and then just seeing how that plays out even in accounting, or even how you deal with your clients, right? And so maybe if this is like a question you're kind of struggling with, I love the way Jeremy kind of put that, is like, who are you? And what do you want the world to know about you first before you start thinking about the strategy, right? So what is one of the biggest mistakes or misconceptions small businesses make when they first approach a marketing agency?
I'm a big advocate of never outsourcing your strategy. I think a lot of times I'll get approached by somebody and they'll say, "Hey, we want you to develop our advertising and our marketing strategy," and that's what I do. So absolutely, and that's not a dumb question. That's a great question, and I need them to ask that question. But what I try to do is help the client develop their strategy, because I may come or go, but that brand is what they need to build. And so I'm trying to help them build their strategy. So I coach them, and actually I became an executive coach, a certified executive coach, because I want to help my clients build their strategy so they own it. So no matter what agency they hire or what helper they get or whoever, they teach that person, here's our brand, here's who we are. We need you to do these things, but we know who we are. Now, if we get lost in the weeds, okay, we can get some help with that. But I am a big fan of not outsourcing the strategy. So when you go to an agency, that's great to have them help you, but just realize that you own your strategy. You have to own it as a business. And that's my opinion, but I do think that has legs. I think it'll go the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, they think of it maybe as, I'm going to outsource this, I'm going to take it off my list and it's going to be done. Without like knowing the investment of time it takes when they're going to work with any of us, to kind of have your full buy-in as well. So it's not just taken off your plate, because in order for it to be authentically you have to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, the one thing I was going to mention was also strategy, in that it seems that is what we get to do on a daily basis is a lot of eye candy. Like our goal is that when you get a call or an email from me or from my company, we want that to be like the highlight of your day, the best part of your day, because we get to do the fun stuff. Like by the time you get to us, things should be fun. But I've noticed that because of that, some people like to kind of shortcut the process and skipping the strategy and skipping the homework and the hard work of figuring out who you are, why you do it. They just want to get straight into the visuals. And we do a lot of packaging, and they want to go, let me see what this looks like on a can. I'm like, cool. Do you know how many cans there are out there? Do you know what you're competing against? Like, you have to find your story. And this applies to CPAs as well as mayonnaise or ketchup or beer or spirits, whatever you're doing.
I like the plug for mayonnaise.
Yeah, right. We designed the blue plate mayonnaise, so that's why I said mayonnaise. But they want to shortcut the process of really clearly identifying who they are and why they're different from the competitors to the left and to the right, and they just want to get straight to the sexy, fun stuff and the illustrations and the packaging, and without doing the hard work of figuring out who you are and why you do what you do. Developing a compelling, authentic story is downright impossible. Stabbing in the dark at that point. So don't skip on strategy.
From my experience,
Go ahead.
but with working directly with small business owners a lot, is I think a lot of small business owners aren't saying, I'm going to check a box and hire an agency, because it's a pretty big investment. So you're going to be at the table. in my experience, everybody's been at the table. So I think just knowing that commitment and knowing that what you put in, you'll get out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just build on what y'all said. If anyone watched Queer Eye in here, am I the only one? I love that show. But I always wonder, like, what happens when the cameras go off for that person who was just given a total makeover, and then they're just pushed out into the world with this identity that might not totally be theirs, you know? And that's sort of what I see businesses do, is they come in and they're like, let's rebrand, let's change how we look, and that'll fix all of our problems. And it just doesn't. You've got to start inside out. It's the same thing y'all said, but I think that's like how I think a big mistake is just rebranding right off the get to try to solve all your problems when it's really not the problem.
Something that I like to talk with my clients about is the inside reality and the outside perception. The inside reality of your company is what's going on when nobody's looking. It's the stuff that happens every day that either frustrates you or gets you excited, and everything in between. The outside is what we tell them. It's what we show them. It's what you're talking about. That's the face that we put on public. When that's different than the inside reality, we're not integrated with our messaging, and then it's just spin, and it costs a lot of money, and we have to have a flavor of the month, and we're just out shouting our competition. It gets very expensive. But if we become a really great company internally and our inside reality is good, and not only good, but it's great, then all we have to do is very simply tell the truth. We tell it in a creative and a compelling way, to Scott's point, and he's done a ton of that kind of work for me. And I can tell you that that kind of work that Scott and his team does at Tilt, that kind of talent, that kind of graphic work, same thing with these others. Jeremy's fantastic agency. These guys produce great work. I don't have that team behind me right now, so I use these guys. And so what I'm talking about is they have to understand the strategy and the inside reality of who you want to be before they ever get to the point of telling your story on the outside. So inside reality and outside perception, when they're integrated, you're operating with integrity. And when they're not integrated, you're spinning it, you're coming up with flavor of the month, and all you can do is spend more money to outshout your competition to get new leads, but you don't get repeat business that way.
Yeah. So this morning I was kind of talking to a few people here, and it was interesting. Somebody was talking about, I haven't really done anything as it relates to marketing, advertising, branding, right? And so and you guys have done a good job of clarifying what do those words mean. But if we have someone who's just really on a limited budget and they're trying to get started, where do you guys, like, step one right now? Like, they're not going to hire an agency today, so they're going to go at this thing a little bit alone. How do we support them? What do we tell them is kind of that first thing they should be thinking about?
Blank slate.
Blank slate.
Money. It's all about revenue. And I tell our team, like, replace the word marketing with revenue. Like, we're a revenue director, you're a chief revenue officer. And it's not the sexy answer for creatives, but it's the right answer probably a lot of the time. But a lot of businesses don't have financial maturity. They don't have financial clarity. And that makes marketing a guessing game on a lot of levels, you know, or you sort of become stuck in this trap of trying to get more sales to cover a lot of financial sins that your company is committing. So for me, it's like, make sure you have your data straight, make sure you have your finances clean so that we can tell if the marketing is working. That's usually my answer to that question.
Yeah. Yeah. What's another perspective?
I would say get out there, meet people. Networking is huge, and it will help you build a database. And I use that term, it's such a big word. It's so scary, right? A database is, if it's a stack of business cards, right? It could be just the people in your phone, your contacts. It'll help you build a network of people that you can talk with, that you can share with, that you can sell to, that you can get help from. That, to me, is a critical mass. When you have 15, 20, 30 people in your initial contact database, you just started a business, you don't even have any money yet, you can go to stuff like this. You can start meeting people. If you have a business card, look, they're $20 at, just go ahead and just do a basic business card. Just go get 100 business cards printed and print them at home, whatever it takes. Start and work towards capitalization, because you will have to have money to move your business forward, but you got to start somewhere. Meet people, Every step that you take is a step in the right direction because it creates motion and momentum. It is impossible to steer a ship when it's docked in the harbor. Get out there and get to work.
Love it.
So many good analogies.
Yeah.
I don't know if this may be the first step, but maybe like step 2 is just like inventory or start your digital presence. Y'all, you can get a website for $9.99 a month at squarespace.com. And they're so user friendly now to build on your own, even if it's what I call like a brochure site where it's just contact information, and then just your social media platforms, own your own handles, like things like that. I feel like a simple digital checklist to just make sure you own your own digital presence.
What's one thing you wish every client knew before they walked into your door?
That we don't have a magic bullet. Yeah, I mean,
You don't?
So within degrees, everything we're doing is subjective. We can build stuff based on what we learn and what we know and, sort of gut, but, we may create something that we think is absolutely perfect and checks off all the boxes and is going to be wildly successful. But the client may not get it, may not like it. And they get upset. They're like, well, I thought you were going to solve this for me. I'm like, well, we think we did. It's just, so there's understanding that what we do is not magic, and it's not just going to come flying off an assembly line, and it is all subjective. And I guess just to have some grace with yourself and grace with your creative partners or whoever you're working with, that we as professionals, we thrive and work from the collaboration with the client. So like we're saying, like, don't just walk up, slam down a check and say, here, make it for me. It can be done, but it's not going to nearly be as effective without you. We don't do what we do in a vacuum. So we need that support. So that's sort of one thing I don't want people coming into is, and that's what's great about this is if you can kind of get a little bit of that momentum, get that ship out of the harbor, we can help you steer it. We can slap a nice coat of paint on that ship and make sure people see it. But we want you involved. Without y'all, it's nothing.
Yep.
I love that answer. I think they're coming to us because they believe that we have something that we can do for them that they can't do themselves, or at least they've chosen us over maybe somebody else or whatever. I think I've often wished, this may be a little personal, but I love sharing personal stuff. I wish they knew that I had their best interest at heart. I'm going to bill them, and I want to get paid for not just what I do, but for what I know, because I've been doing it a long time and I'm good at it. But I really wish I could convince them, and it takes a lot of time in a relationship, but I wish they knew walking in the door, I have your best interest at heart. I have nothing in me wants to take advantage of you. I want to do this because I'm good at it and I know I can help you. And if you'll follow the guidelines and we work together, like Scott said, this is going to be wonderful. But if we just sit around and doubt each other this whole time, and you don't see me as an expert in what I do, and I don't see you as the business owner who has the final say, then we're going to have a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. The things I'm thinking of are super tangible in the digital world. Like, who owns your Meta Business Suite? Do you have a Gmail for your business that I can connect Google Analytics and your Google Business to and all the things? Who owns your domain? Like things like that. Like I feel like coming to the table, like y'all, almost every client it's the hardest thing to get login admin access to everything. And it's because so-and-so's, intern of so-and-so has managed that. And that's very common. But I don't know, just kind of a little password checklist would also be very helpful.
I think I need you to do that for me because I'm not sure I own home.
Yeah. It's one of the first things I do with clients.
So one little nugget she said, so as a business owner, I'm sure, if you're starting a business, and this flows right into what she said, get a .com or a .net, like get away from Gmail as your point of contact as quickly as possible. It is subtle, but it adds that little tinge of legitimacy that if you're sending something at, Scott@gmail.com and you're asking for professional, like there's just a level of, is this person real? Is this serious? There's so much scam out there these days that the more authentic, and if I can look at that back end of that email and go, oh, that's a real website. Oh, they're in Baton Rouge. All right, this is real. This is not a scam. So I'm sorry to kind of jump in on that, but that's a minor thing. But there you go.
No, and what you're talking about is almost no dollars and cents to do that. That's just like frontline strategy. Where am I trying to go? What does that look like? Jeremy, anything you want to add before we take a question?
No, I think y'all nailed it. I mean, just there's no silver bullet, and be in a collaborative spirit. I think.
You know, I think I want to just open it up. If there's anybody that has a question specifically around this panel, we can ask. Yes, Abby.
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk after this because there's so much to talk about. But I would say first and foremost, like, be data minded in your approach. It's, again, like, people avoid it because it's hard, it's not exciting, but start measuring the things you're doing and determine if they work or not. You can use ChatGPT to figure out what are the metrics I should be measuring for these different tactics. But that's like really helpful for an agency to come in and go, okay, so this channel over here, like LinkedIn's really working for you and Instagram's just not, or whatever it is. And if you can bring forward as much insight to the table as possible, that's one huge advantage. And then on your website, like tactically, what you could do now is build lead magnets. And do you know what a lead magnet is? Okay, so the quick version of that is a lot of people build a website and they have like a form, like contact us today, or, you know, get our services. And that's a big ask for somebody who's just checking out your website to be like, hey, take the next step and let's date. But if you do a lead magnet, it's like, download this free resource and give me your email. You're basically asking them for a handshake. Give me your email, I'll give you a resource. Now you've got them in your database. That is a much easier ask for a browser. And a lot of people just skip that step or avoid it. And the job to do right now is to determine what is a good lead magnet. What's a good resource for my audience that they'd be interested in? And if you can solve that and put that out there, you've got a huge advantage. That's my knee-jerk reaction to that question.
I go back to some of what Chelsey was saying earlier, just kind of, what are your logins for your stuff? You know, I mean, can you send me a spreadsheet that has all of your assets and logins and information so I can go in and look at analytics, so I can go in and look and see what's happening. I can see what your mix looks like. I can see all of the different things that I need to see so that I can pick up the ball and run with it rather than do all these forensics and have my coordinator call you about 6 times over the next 3 days and waste all this time. And if we're billing by the hour, then money, and, you know, it just gets really awkward. So before you engage a firm like ours, it would be really great to just put all the stuff together, you know, have a Google Docs or, you know, Google file or something where you can share your assets, put it all together, coordinate it, organize it any way you want to organize it. But just kind of be organized so that you can do a handoff. And we're going to ask questions. We'll probably have other questions that we're going to ask along the way too. But when I get a file or a link to Google Docs or something like that with all these assets, I know as a provider here, I know that, okay, I've got somebody that's organized and that's ready to go. Otherwise, I get this mess and it makes me feel like, well, you're paying me a lot of money to just kind of be your secretary here, you know? So that would be a very practical thing that, like you were talking about, who owns your stuff. And so that would be a good piece of advice for me.
Yeah, I like that. Building on what Jeremy said, sorry.
No, you're good.
And both of y'all, like, even what I've started to do for a few small businesses is like a social media audit because of the nature, like a heavy, like 80% of what I do is social media management for small businesses. So even if you did your own audit, you know, and to Jeremy's point, like, what's the data behind it? Because if you approach someone like me to, like, maybe take on your social media management, it's very different if you're leading with Instagram, right? Video, editing, all the different things that we have to do versus LinkedIn, longer format writing, different things like that. If you came to me, like, that's a very different social media content plan leading with whichever platform. And you would know that through an audit and say everything from Google Analytics and saying 50% of my links are coming from LinkedIn. that's surprising to me. Sometimes it does surprise you, you know? So just kind of maybe evaluating 6 months of data and kind of knowing going into the door, like, I really want to lead with Instagram. So that means video. I'm willing to do my own video, but I need help editing and writing captions and things like that. So kind of going in with a little bit of a plan.
Yep. And I'll just kind of loop back to what we were saying earlier about strategy. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with Simon Sinek, kind of really well-known marketer. He's got a video. It looks old, like it looks like somebody popped in a VHS tape. I mean, it looks really old. But I think it may be one of his first videos that pops up if you look it up. It's basically just 3 questions. It's called his golden circles. Those are kind of like the great foundational building blocks for understanding who you are. It's just a concentric circle. And once you understand the middle, you go out and then out. So kind of doing a little bit of homework, making sure you really know who you are and why you're doing what you do before you even come to one of us. And obviously we'll go a little bit deeper and help you refine it and help you explode it. But having that foundational stuff is absolutely something you can do sitting on your couch just with a little bit of understanding. And he walks you through it, and he uses Apple as an example, which is kind of the gold standard. But it's really digestible, really easy to understand. I would say that's a great first place.
Is that the Start With Why?
Yep.
The TED Talk? Yeah. Yeah, Simon Sinek. You got to watch it. It's like 101 if you own a business. Do that. Great point.
Well, guys, thank you so much for this first panel. We're going to kick it over to Andrew real quick. And then if you have questions, we're going to have a whole Q&A section too. So we're going to try to sprinkle in a few here and there. Go ahead, Andrew.
In between the panels, we're just going to talk about a few library resources. So these are all available at no cost to you. All you need is a library card. And if you don't have a library card, you can get one just around the corner there. So we deal a lot with online courses and providing continuing education. So 2 of the big ones that we have are Gale Presents Udemy and also LinkedIn Learning. So both of these provide thousands of on-demand courses on pretty much any topic you can imagine. There's lots of business topics in there, but also things like how to build a website, how to use Canva, how to use pretty much anything. So all available on demand. New courses are added all the time. They're taught by experts. And if there's some kind of hot button topic, they're really good at getting new courses out quickly. So of course, things like how to use AI in marketing, you'll find courses on that. So you always have to go for our website to get to these. You're using the library subscription. So you have full access to LinkedIn Learning completely gratis. Just have to use your library card to sign in. And same with Udemy. So for LinkedIn Learning, you do need an East Baton Rouge Parish Library card. But for Gale Presents Udemy, that is actually a statewide resource provided by the State Library of Louisiana. So if you've got a library card with any library in the state, you can access Udemy.
All right, let's do quick introductions, please. Jeremy, if you don't mind, start.
Me again. Hey, Jeremy, 368.
Victoria Allen, I'm with Tilt. I'm their social lead and digital strategist.
Hey, Brian Rodriguez with Gatorworks. We're a digital agency here in Baton Rouge.
Josh Dickerhoof, Chief Brand Strategist at SASSO Agency. So we're a full service agency, do a lot of the same things these folks do here too. So happy to kind of get into this dialogue.
Awesome. Okay, so this section, we're going to be talking about your first 5, which is strategy, positioning, budget, calendar, metrics. So I want to start with the foundational side of this. Before someone builds a website or builds a logo, we talked a little bit about this in the first panel, but what's the first bit of foundational work they need to do, and why does that really matter?
I'll jump in. I think it goes back to the conversation a few moments ago. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with who you are as a business and why you're different, and I think the how you're different piece is key, because it's also something that you want to explore and ensure that your target market actually cares. You know, so the differentiator that you think you have, does it actually apply? Like, does your market actually recognize that as a key, component of what you do, and is it actually relevant? But I think a lot of it is just doing that inside work that we were just talking about, as kind of that first fundamental step. Developing what your identity is as a company, what's your passion, what's your core focus.
I think it repeats everything from earlier. Strategy is key. Everyone says it, but you actually have to do it. You'd be surprised how many times we ask people and they say, what's different, what's unique? And they're like, they explain the different things about their services, but that's something everybody can do, right? So truly understanding the why, like the Simon Sinek stuff, and like getting to the core of it that ties to the brand and actually gives the customer value is huge. So if that's like an intrinsic value, or if that's like a actual physical value, whatever that might be, you got to figure that out earlier than later, because everything else is just going to be vanity. It's just going to look nice. It's going to be pretty, but it has no meaning behind it. And you're ultimately going to have fatigue over time because you really aren't selling anything of value. You're just selling something that's potentially can look good. The packaging could be amazing, but it doesn't have any connection to truly what makes you different.
One of the main things that I think about all the time when I'm working with brands is keeping in mind their core belief. I think it goes back to, kind of what Scott and everybody on the last panel was saying, that you have to get realistic with yourself. You have to know what separates you, what sets you apart, what makes you special as a brand. You're going to have competitors no matter who you are. So understanding your core belief and making that as concise as possible, that's going to feel like who your brand is, who you are, how you're going to manage it as your brand grows. And that's going to help you get really, really, really realistic with yourself about what you need to do next. Your budgets, it's going to help drive your strategy, and it's going to open you up to have more serious conversations when you start looking at an agency, expanding, or doing more for yourself.
I'll say, Heather, can I pick on you again? I think I did this last time, but Heather is the owner of the F45 gym in town. And this is not a flex that I go there, but I go there every now and again, not as often as I should. But it's, to me, like if you're just a small business owner and you're trying to get started, you have the greatest opportunity to speak to your customers, understand the real pain that you solve for them, identify it, write it down, and then write down your solution to that pain, and then go 3 levels deeper with that. And with F45, I think I've said this to you before, but it's a gym. There's a lot of gyms. So are you really selling fitness? Are you really selling like an active lifestyle? Because that's what everybody's selling. So what makes F45 appealing, in my opinion, it's convenience. It's the system. It's a 45-minute predictable, in and out, no questions asked. You don't have to think a lot, which is good for me. And maybe what you're really selling is convenience, at least to a segment of your customers. And if you just talk to them and kind of understand, like, why us? If you can bring that to the table day one, like you're 10 steps ahead of 90% of the businesses out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to add, we keep on saying the word strategy and we throw it out there like it's just some very understood thing. So when we say strategy, we mean who your competitor is, why you do what you do, answer all of those questions. Also understanding your target audience. Y'all hear, target audience is very important, but understanding them very, very well, whether you're trying to evaluate and building profiles of like, I'm going to build these audience groups so I know who I'm talking to. The easiest thing to do is to put on paper, what questions am I answering for the audience? Just start there, especially before a website. If you can answer that, you've built out pretty much a majority of your content that you're going to want to build, because that's what you're building it for. You're building it for the customer. You can go into the branding, which is your personality. How do we speak? How do we sound? How do we come across? If you met me at a party, what do I feel like? What's this vibe I'm giving off? That's what your brand does. So all those components are part of that. And then you get into a lot of the metrics and how you deploy it through advertising and marketing. But that's kind of just a quick strategy overview.
Yeah, I love that, because one of the things that I was going to bring up is that strategy always seems like this far off distant word. And I love that you even just started breaking down like, wait, the strategy has components, right? If we said a house, well, a house has roof, it has doors, it has windows, it has siding, right? So when you think about that, and I believe strategy usually starts with the voice of the client. So I love that you brought that up. So let's maybe talk a little bit about that on the front end. Like, what if a business owner is scared to go get the voice of the client? Is that real? Like, is that a real fear for them to go get the voice of their client? And how would they get past that if that is a real fear?
Well, I think there's an element, we'll come across clients that think they need to have this fancy, complex system for gathering data or, researching their market. And I think it's as simple as, hey, your last customer that things seem to go well for, what if you go take them to coffee or take them to lunch and ask them, why did you hire us? It seems like things went well. What do we do well? Were there areas where we could have done better? It could be as simple as just asking questions. And so, I don't know. I think sometimes we overthink it a little bit too much. So
I would say with strategy, you don't want to think about it last. Everything that you do when you start pitching your brand and marketing it, it needs to be at the forefront of your mind always. Everything has to matter. Otherwise, you're just going to start wasting your time. That's why when I said get realistic with yourself, be realistic with your expectations of where you see yourself and expect yourself to go. It's a communication, okay? We want circular communication in order to receive feedback, get research, understand where there's opportunities to improve. And that's with every kind of range of once you start getting into marketing, improving your services, bringing in new stuff, new selling points. So honestly, that feedback shouldn't frighten you. It should encourage you to be better, to do more, and to push your brand if you can. I think that's kind of exciting. I have an art background, and I think the worst thing for me, going through school and everything, is getting critique that doesn't support me to move forward, to do better, to improve upon myself. So having somebody say, oh, wow, this is a beautiful piece of work, that's really nice for my ego. But I know that I'm not, Michelangelo, and I'm not going to be him, but I want to be better than this. I want to always be improving. So I think with strategy and having that reliable communication, that feedback from your clients, those are the people that you want to engage with, is going to be valuable for you.
Yeah. So you guys talked a little bit, Brian, you talked about the value proposition, right? Like, what makes you different? So if somebody's sitting here and they're like, I have no idea. I'm in business doing this deal, but I don't even know what makes me different. I'm just doing this thing. How would you guys guide them to even start on their own thinking about value proposition? How would you do that?
Something that I try to do is, first of all, kind of demystify the differentiation question, because people get stuck on that. What makes me different? What makes me different? Oh my God, I'm not different. And it's sort of an unfair question sometimes. So what I say is, say like, what makes me unique or what makes me distinct, and start there and work your way back. And to me, that's an easier question to answer, because the default answer for small businesses is we have better service, we care more. That's what they almost always say. That is not a strategy.
But we care more than the others.
Yeah, a strategy is, we provide tax services for freelancers. Now you've got like a category, you've got a specific audience that you've defined. So even just starting there, what makes you distinct is you serve freelancers. That's your distinct advantage. It could be that simple as a start. Then you sharpen and you learn through, experimentation and talking. But
do they need to hire somebody to do this type of work? Or is this part of the, hey, this is the work they should be doing? Like, if somebody walks in your office, do you want to know that they've done the first level thinking, second level thinking of this work?
Ideally, yeah. I think you're going to spend a lot of money with an agency on that work that you might not necessarily need to, if I'm being honest. Sorry, guys. But you could do it yourself or hire a great freelance consultant. You know, that would be my personal. We tell businesses that all the time. Like, you don't want to come here and spend all this money before you do X and Y. And you can go do that with, and we'll refer them to some consultants, people out there who can do it at a more approachable rate and with a lower lift.
Yeah, you can go check out Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. He talks about the hedgehog concept. And that's a great place to start. Read about the hedgehog concept, and kind of helps it asks the questions that help you start to get down on paper maybe what the answers would be for your business.
And there's different ways to approach differentiation. Like sometimes it can be cost, like you just are cheaper, and that's just going to work. I mean, if you sell the same product, but it's cheaper, you might be all right. You don't have to go so deep in this intrinsic value that I'm offering to your life, and this like fidget spinner is going to change your whole world, right? It's just 50 cents cheaper, so you're going to sell it on Amazon. So sometimes you don't have to go there if it's that base level. Sometimes you have to tell the story. You have to have the brand. You have to have the connection to this, the value of the product or the brand. That's when it takes a lot more discovery, right? There's a lot of businesses that start businesses and don't have a business plan. They have free services at the library that I noticed. So you can have a business plan. You can go through that study. It'll bring up things like mission. It'll bring up a lot of the stuff that we typically will do in strategies, but start there also. That's a very easy resource to go down that path. It builds a little bit more of like the business structure of like the numbers and things like that, but that is huge to establish. And it's surprising how many times businesses don't have a business plan and have thought through that process. They just like, I have this idea, can you help me with it? And it's like, yeah, but I need to know more.
Great plug for the next August 12th workshop, talking about building your business plan. Something you guys have been saying, which I think is like really important, but you know, if I was showing up at your house to cook a meal, you might tell me, hey, there's certain ingredients I need you to bring. I can help you cook it, right? So if we thought a little bit like that, what is it? We're talking about strategy, we're talking about positioning, we're talking about budget, but we're also talking about what is it that our small business owners need to bring to the table before they hire an agency. So we talked a little bit about mission and vision, maybe a business plan. What are some other things that you guys would say if people walked in equipped this way, and I'm not saying perfect, but they had more than I don't knows, what are some of those other ingredients you'd want them to bring to the table for your organization to help them put together the strategy that could win?
Outside of the typical mission, vision, values, please do those, because everyone does them as an afterthought. You really need to understand them and do them and care about them. Target competitor, why you do what you do, your differentiators, all those are like core components. A lot of companies don't dig into the idea of the cost and the numbers. Like there's the cost of acquisition for a customer, the lifetime value of your customer. Those are massive for us. And those are hard sometimes for business owners to quantify, but it's a very simple formula. If you can spend some time, especially if you're an established business and you've been doing business for enough time to gather data, which shows, oh, typically a customer costs X amount. So I sell a product, I make $50 off of this customer. I think I can get them at least 3 times in a month. So therefore, the cost of acquisition for that customer, you can have a value to that number. So then you can subtract basically how much cost it takes to get that customer, and then you end up with the value. Lifetime value is kind of tracking that through a certain amount of time. So if you understand how many times that customer comes through the funnel and how many times they sell it, and you can say typically customers stay with us for like 12 years or 5 years, or they are off at 3 months, then you can quantify a number that can give you some baseline to explain the investment you're going to want to put forth. So we get questions all the time of like, how much money should I spend to make this work? First question is usually, how much money do you have? And have you thought about it? And once you understand what that is, and they say like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't know what the cost is. I don't know how, I have no idea how to do that. You just tell me how much I need to do and I'll make more money. If you start at CAC or LTV, like lifetime value, that's huge. Google it, ChatGPT it, start looking into it, figure it out, and you'll be well established to have a great conversation with us when it comes to advertising and how much to actually take all these tools we've built for you and then put it out in the world and see what kind of sales you can get.
Yeah, and one other thought on that is to start kind of working on your internal processes so that when an advertising campaign starts working, that you have the process in place to take the influx in calls or to log those leads into a CRM and just to be able to process it. Because the last thing you want to happen is the phone start ringing off the hook and then you don't have people answering the phone and you know, it's a lot of missed opportunity and wasted dollars. So.
Yeah, I would say understanding your key indicators for performance, KPIs. Those are going to help you know what to track. It's going to help you understand your goals. Budget, of course, very, very important. And then also knowing how far you're willing to push your brand as well. What are you willing to push your brand into in order to connect with people, your audiences, especially if you're going on a new platform on social media that you know would benefit you, but you're just like, I'm not entirely sure how that works. As a professional, we can help you with that campaign and that transaction and give you options, but budget's going to also help because at the end of the day, we still got to get paid. But also some of that money, obviously, you want to see go into this investment. So you want to make sure that you have a return on your investment and you have a way to track those things. So kind of tying your KPIs with business goals and where you're going to be able to track those is going to be really, really important for you. So you can see the investment as being worthwhile. And if it's not, where we can improve.
And also understanding the KPIs before going to an agency is huge because brand awareness is a much different game than I actually want to make sales. There's a lot of companies that just need brand awareness. Once you create that intrinsic connection to a customer, it's going to be easier to make a sale, or it's going to be easier to have connection to that brand. And then, it's a better process. So there's value to that. And there's always technically brand there as far as that goes. But if you can understand those a little bit, and kind of come into that conversation and be very helpful.
Yeah, I think something too that we'll cover in our next workshop on the business plans is really around budgeting and thinking about, okay, if I have a business plan, how much should I be spending on my brand? How much should I be spending on advertising and marketing? And so we'll kind of unpack some of that stuff as well, because I know that's just such a, that's just a deeper conversation, but it's hard to know what your ROI is going to be if you don't first know what your budget could be for that. I want to go ahead and open it up. Do we have any sort of questions that would be on building your marketing foundation that anybody wants to ask before we kick it to Andrew?
I'll start. That's the question. We recently had a client a while back, and they came to us and they had really no data, no systems in place, and they had a pretty healthy marketing budget and said, hey, we want to turn marketing on, make it go. We want to double our customers this year. And we said, no, we cannot commit to that. That's going to set us up for failure. But what we can commit to is being honest the whole way through, and you can turn this off anytime you want, but we're just going to be honest. And so one of the ways we've sort of de-risked things and increased certainty is being hyper transparent and over communicative with the data. So like they wanted their customer acquisition cost to be $125. In the first 6 months we worked, it was $500. That's terrifying. And I had to sit down with these guys and say, hey, we're at 500. Here's why we think we're at 500. Here's how we think we get it down. But at the end of the day, like, you haven't marketed yourself in over 5 years. This is an uphill battle. And we can show, one of the ways we do this is show progress, like show incremental progress so that there's a pattern of success. And we have that at least. There's been also times when we've sat down and said, we're partway into a piece of work and we say, I don't think this is going to get you the results we thought it would for these reasons. And we have a really honest conversation about how might we reallocate this budget. And we've pivoted projects many times for the same reason. So I think maybe my answer is just honesty and collaboration, because it is a soft science. It's very like, if you think about marketing, what you're doing is you're trying to persuade a person to do a thing. And that is just really hard. Anybody who has kids knows how hard that is. And there's just no way to guarantee that at the end of the day. And that's just the truth.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing to this. I also see this where you have small businesses are doing well in revenue, and so they have this belief, well, we'll just dial back marketing. We're not going to go do all this stuff. And then as soon as like things start to fall off on sales, they want to quickly run back and throw wood on the fire. And I think maybe we should talk a little bit about consistency, intentionality, maybe some things like that that also help to de-risk things like the all brakes, all gas, right? Maybe talk a little bit.
So depends on your service. If you're selling like a baseball versus selling like accounting services, it's much different. If you have certain data already, it's helpful for us because we can see, hey, typically on average, you get about 50 new customers a year. Your retention rate is XYZ%. Those are good numbers to understand because then we can use that data to be able to quantify some type of cost for acquisition and lifetime value. We've been through a lot of just like journeys with clients. We've have clients that go through the process of like, hey, we're doing fine. Let's jump on this digital wagon and we don't have to do any traditional. Let's just go and let's just get more like we want to make sales. And we've seen them do it and be successful in certain areas, but then you start to have a dip. And you start to have a dip in brand awareness. You're just not quite as top of mind. There's value to the holistic view of advertising, which we always say it's like this target. The sweet spot's in the center. Everything else around the outside is all the things that we're talking about, from PR to social, like your paid, owned, and earned media or services. Once you do all of those, that's the perfect synergy to hit that sweet spot. But it takes constant consistency and always being on and never dropping off, because once you're not top of mind, it takes a lot more to come back and be top of mind. So there is a huge benefit to continue to do that. It doesn't mean you need to just invest dollars into wasted spaces. A big part of our process at the very end, we always say evolution. You're constantly evolving. You can say we've failed in this area. Not that we did a bad job. It's just that this didn't work. But the most important feature of a great partner is the someone that says we can quickly evolve. Let's change. Let's adjust it. Let's look towards this. Why did this LinkedIn ad do so well? Let's dig into that and let's start adjusting towards that, those findings, and then start putting more money over here. It's always a game because the landscape's constantly changing too. So if you're constantly adjusting, you can evolve and have a very nimble agency or group. You're going to do really well. You're never going to have a silver bullet. It's never going to work. Sometimes you hit it right and you're like, yes, this feels so good. But you have to evolve and you have to be okay and trust your agency. And if you have a good rapport with them and you have a good transparency and they're not trying to like just sell you something and pull the wool over your eyes, you should be all right.
Yeah. All right, thank you. We're going to kick it to Andrew and then we'll take a bio break. So thank you, panelists, for your time.
Couple of other resources to tell you about. So Data Axle and Mergent Intellect, these are kind of directories at heart for both businesses and residential. It covers the whole country. But where it really gets into being useful is for the advanced search features. So it's really powerful. We can look up all kinds of business-to-business information. So if you wanted to see all the kinds of a certain business in a certain area, we can get those, and it's got contact numbers, the leadership, the corporate tree, sales if there's reports on that. And the thing we use it for most is for finding consumer information for marketing. So say if you've got a business and you're trying to reach a certain consumer demographic or lifestyle, you can market to them directly. We can generate a list for you rather than just kind of blanket sending stuff out to everybody. So we can do, it's pretty creepy actually, all the consumer lifestyle information's available, that's available in there. So say if you wanted to open some kind of pet store, we can give you a list of all the pet store, all the people who have pets within a certain radius around your possible business location. We've got lists of if people are likely to be donors, but they also like wine. It's really crazy the amount of specific lifestyles that we can target and get you an actionable sales list that you can download into an Excel spreadsheet and then mark it from there. And we're also very happy to do the research for you. So we just need to know what you're looking for, and we can generate those leads for you, just give you an Excel spreadsheet, and you're good to go. It also has heat mapping. So say if you were looking to open a business, you can see where all the similar businesses are located around the area. So it helps you identify where there might be a gap. This area doesn't have a coffee shop or whatever. And all this data comes from places like Hoover's and Dun & Bradstreet and Experian. That's all kind of where the consumer data comes from. All right, so on Thursday from 4 to 8, that's when we're having our drop-in workshop on Data Axle. So we can really dive deep, look at your specific examples of what you're looking for and show you how to run searches, and of course run searches for you. So I definitely want to encourage you to come out to the next thing.
Let's go ahead and go to social media. So if you don't mind, if you guys could introduce yourselves again, that would be great. We'll start with you, David.
Okay, David Day with the Day Group Marketing Advertising.
Victoria Allen with Tilt.
Chelsey Blankenship with CLB Consulting.
Awesome. So we're here to talk about social media, posting with a purpose, how to build an online presence without losing your mind.
Too late.
Yeah, too late. That's right. That's right. All right. So how should a small business decide which social media platform to focus on first? Chelsey, you kind of mentioned a little bit of this earlier. And what types of businesses tend to do well on each of those platforms? So how do they make that decision?
So start with the data, not necessarily where the number of fans are, but maybe where your engagement rate is the highest. Facebook, the Meta Business Suite, if you're looking at Facebook and Instagram, your insights there, as long as your Instagram is connected to your Facebook page, you have a wealth of knowledge just going into business.facebook.com, logging in as your page and looking at this analytics. You can pull back for like many months. I've pulled for clients years past with data. So you can kind of look at that. But if you're looking at other social media, LinkedIn, TikTok, just where's your target audience living the most? And I like to rank social platforms for clients. It's kind of one of the first things I do. And I'm like, okay, we're going to rank it and we're going to agree on this ranking system because we're going to write for X first, and then we're going to adapt for the rest. So I have a lot of clients that lead with Instagram, few that lead with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn newsletters are a thing. That's just a blog on LinkedIn. But you get an automatic email if you follow a page. Those have been really, really successful with clients like lawyers, that produce good information that's search worthy. So we're able to use that platform in a little bit of a different way. A lot of clients don't know about that. So I don't believe you can have a solid, awesome presence on every platform. So I think you need to choose and rank and move forward with confidence that you're gonna, and then adapt, like a lot of people have said. So adapt. Say, it's been really hard to shoot these videos for Instagram. Like, this is really hard. Okay, maybe that brings a whole different level of a conversation on videography and video content, and how do we need to elevate that in-house, out of house, different things like that. So does that help?
Yeah, I think understanding your audience is going to help you a lot. Knowing where they're engaging with you. I try to recommend sticking to like kind of 3 core channels, because every kind of strategy that I pitch and work with my clients is a sustainable one. It's great to have an unlimited social budget. We'd all be liquid death. We're not all liquid death. So it's like understanding your reach and your limit, and then really catering the channels that are going to be the most beneficial to you. So those are going to be the ones that you know you're going to be engaging with. Everybody thinks that Facebook's dead. Actually, B2B is really high on there with high ROI. Instagram, you're able to be a little bit more playful. You're going to be catering your content to the highest kind of range of engagement on each of those channels. You don't want to resize content too much. You want to resize with the channel in mind. You want to shape content with the channel in mind. That's a lot of content. If you're managing 3 channels and you're posting 2 to 3 times a week, you can do the math. It's simple. I don't like math. So, but it adds up quickly, especially if you're having to cater to each channel. So by picking one, like she mentioned, is that it is going to be the best thing for you. And then kind of with that as your primary channel, using the others to kind of bolster your brand across everything else.
Yeah, smart stuff. I was once told, don't be the smartest person in the room. No danger here. These guys know what they're talking about. I love the idea of knowing your audience, because if you know your audience, then you can kind of start being very selective about your socials and where you're going to major in. I totally agree with, we really don't have the bandwidth as individual proprietors, small businesses, to master every one of the social media channels that's out there. I think it's smart to really focus on the 1 or the 2 or even the 3 that you really feel that's where your audience is. And the second thing is curating your content for that audience. We tend to, as advertisers, one of the big classic mistakes that we make is we talk about ourselves, talk about ourselves, talk about ourselves. And that's what advertising is, right? Well, I disagree. I think we need to talk about our customer, because we need to scratch their itch. Nobody cares about me. What they care about is themselves. So how does my content address what they care about? And so the message matters an awful lot. The platform is absolutely necessary, but I can make a really bad platform work with a really great message. I just have a smaller piece of the pie to do it with, potentially. But if it's a really good message, if I really spend time on my content and curate it well and learn who my audience is, to me, I can use Meta and I can run the same stuff on Instagram and Facebook, and I can look at analytics, and I can make it work without a lengthy strategy. But I highly recommend what these ladies are saying. So that's what I would do. First, who's my audience? And secondly, what are they looking for? What do they want? What's going to scratch their itch? And that's what I want to be able to produce. So if I have a platform that allows me to do that, and the third thing would be, you got to be consistent. You can't do it for 2 weeks and get tired of it and stop and expect your brand to grow. If you're looking to sell something online through social media channels versus brand yourself and build followers or whatever, you got to know that in advance. That goes back to strategy.
Yeah. And so if somebody's sitting here right now going, okay, I get it. I need to find my channel, my lane. What is a simple, easy way for somebody here, say they're an attorney or a CPA, or maybe they're, what is Rhino Electric? That's like, electrical company. Okay. So I'm going to pick on you right there since you sat that close to Scott. What should he do? What should he do to find which channel is best for him?
I would start, if I may, by asking you who your best customer is. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're homeowners? Okay, between age 35 and 65, male, female, does it matter? It doesn't matter. You usually get the call from male or female, the initial contact? Mostly male, okay. So men 35 to 65 years old. If you were to put in ChatGPT or just Google it, what social media channels do men age 35 to 65 frequent? Facebook is probably going to be number 1, because Facebook is, it's almost 3 billion users monthly on Facebook, right? Their Instagram is right behind it with a couple of billion, but it's going to skew a little younger. Instagram and Snapchat is going to skew a little bit younger. Then TikTok, of course, and all that kind of stuff. TikTok's not a great place for you to be, right? I'm not saying you couldn't make it work with a great message, but Facebook is definitely where I would begin to live. But I would also partner, like the ladies have said. Think about this. Why would somebody do business with you versus somebody else that sells the same thing, the same service that you do? If you can curate content maybe on LinkedIn about your company, and appeal to those same people at their business and their business connections, you might have a lot of traction when it comes to selling something on Facebook. So there's just ways to think about it strategically. But that's the first step, I would say, is, okay, who you trying to reach? And then pair your audience with that particular social media and then own that specifically.
And taking a little bit away from social media, but like that Google search engine to me is like your primary base. And even thinking non-traditionally, like I would go to Nextdoor. Okay, company profile, reviews, things like that. That's where I would make the decision to call you, is on Nextdoor. I really wouldn't. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so managing that presence, asking for reviews regularly, Google reviews, things like that, those are all not traditional like social media. Facebook for sure. I think you need a consistent content strategy. But when I'm looking for a service like you, it's Google and it's friends, it's texting. Who do you use? My neighbors. And then so it's really, I am influenced more by my friends than any influencer on social media. So things like that I feel like might be a really good, but social media content impacts search engine results. Not as much as Google reviews do, but a little bit. So like consistent strategy there too. So I think kind of looking at that as a whole would be really powerful. We're on it.
Just to be clear, you're talking about Google search.
Yes.
Does y'all know what Google search is and how that works? And at least basically, that's a really smart comment, because that is, I mean, if you're not there, if you're not coming up on searches, I mean, you're not gonna get the business. I mean, 80% of the business goes to the top 3 search results. Yes, ma'am.
That's really big. I mean, I get a lot of Google calls too, and they're not all scams, but I do advertise a lot for a lot of different businesses on Google. So I'm getting a call from like many different Google accounts, they all are calling me. So there are some really legitimate Google ad reps that will walk you through, like without me, like walk you through how to place ads and all that stuff. So some are legitimately calling you for a free service to walk you through because they want you to spend money on Google advertising. That's how, but if you're not interested in spending money on Google ads, don't answer it. But the scams on Facebook specifically, I've actually had a few clients that have lost their Facebook pages. That's why like Meta Business Suite is so important. Like you need to own it. No agency needs to own it, in my opinion. You need to own your own business suite connected to your business email. But I've had to help clients even like verify their Facebook account, even pay a little bit per month to be a verified user through their driver's license and all that stuff. Y'all, it sounds ridiculous, but like it gives them top level support so that when a Facebook page is taken down, Facebook chat will actually talk to you and say, oh, you're connected to this page. Oh, you're a verified profile. Oh, okay, here's your page back, So there are some things you can do if you dig in, but you have to be relentless in continuing to dig in. I've done it. It's tough, and there's not always a success story on getting it back. But those 2-step verifications that we all say save for next time. I'm sorry, I'm generally speaking. I do that too. But don't do that. And I think everything is trying to get more secure to prevent scams like that, because scams are coming up more and more. So if we kind of take those a little bit seriously, it does kind of help. I'm sorry that it was taken down though.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about Google Ads. And I know that's maybe stepping out of the social media side, but when you guys are thinking about Google Ads, are you guys thinking about that more in like your advertising strategy? Does that cross over at all with your social media? I just want to make sure we're like clearing the air. Is that part of social media, or is that more about the advertising strategy that we need to be thinking about when budgeting?
I personally separate that. I mean, separate's not the right word, but it is something uniquely different than social media.
Right.
At least in a strategy that I help my clients build, because there's a different rhythm and a different temperament that goes with Google advertising and search ads. In my opinion, I think they're related because they're digital. I think they're related because they can connect. But I think there's definitely a different line item in the budget for Google advertising or search than I would put under social.
Yeah, I would say that Google advertising should be in tandem with any other kind of digital marketing that you do. As I mentioned kind of in the last panel, like attaching KPIs and goals to your business outcomes is going to help you kind of define where you need to allocate budget and where you're going to, decide where that strategy is going to live, or where that specific goal is going to live, whether it's going to be served through social or it's going to be served through Google. They're going to bring out different outcomes. There's going to be a different kind of reach that you're going to see and a different kind of outcome that you're going to see through Google placement versus social ads. You're also going to see it on the back side of the analytics. And I definitely recommend look on the analytics side on your own before you even involve a consultant or an agency. You need to know what that shit looks like. Pardon my French. But
I'm not sure that's French, but
French,
sure.
but close enough. If you put an E in an accent, maybe. Shite.
This is my fault, right? I invited you up here.
You're an enabler. But that, you need to understand kind of what you're dealing with. So kind of mentally preparing yourself of okay, these are the kind of results that I can expect through Google placement versus social. That's going to make you a more informed business partner, business leader, brand partner, whatever your involvement with your brand is. And of course, that budget, I think, needs to be separate as well, because those goals are separate. They're serving different needs. So keep that as separate as possible, because you don't want to have too much under one umbrella where you're going to maybe suddenly be like, okay, well, we're going to just do a hard stop on all social marketing right now. You don't want to put a hard stop on everything. One last note on that, I would say your brand does need to be consistent across all of your channels. And your advertisements. So there's nothing more jarring to your audience, your people that you're trying to engage with, that if they're seeing a Google ad that has verbiage or language that does not reflect on your website, on your social media, or anything else, at that point, it's is this even the same company? Okay, so control your voice and control your brand across all aspects, and that includes paid media.
I was gonna say that I think the same person or agency should do both. If you're going to hire for paid advertising, like placement, digital advertising, Facebook, Instagram, Google, and social media management / maybe longer format writing like blogs / website management, I think the same company should do both. They talk together. If you're writing blogs and you're boosting those blogs in the paid search engine, the words within the blog on the website matter to the search ads that you're placing. I see a lot of small businesses do this. They're like, well, we have an advertising agency that does all of our Facebook and Instagram ads. That's great. Oftentimes they use our content for it. They literally copy paste our captions. And so you're kind of paying for, I think, double, because I think if one agency, one voice, or even if it's in-house, if it's you, I think that same person should place digital and write organic content. I think they work better that way.
Okay, I'm gonna just do a rapid fire with you guys, and then we're gonna move to questions because Andrew's holding his 5 up to me. So I often hear, I don't know what to post. I don't have time. So if we're talking about easy content wins, just give us a quick, what would you recommend to people if they think they need to have something more elaborate? What would you say?
I would say it depends, which is a cop-out. But what do you want out of your social media? What are you trying to get from it? What is your expectation from social media? Start there. If I'm trying to get followers, if I'm trying to sell a product, what that influences that decision. But I'm a big believer in getting that ship out of the harbor. I mean, like I said before, you cannot steer a ship if it's docked in the harbor. Get moving. I have experienced this. I just wrote a book. I self-published the book. I launched the book myself, and I was like, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to look like an idiot on social media. And I'm a marketer, and I've been doing this for 35 years. And so I was like, I don't know what I want to do. My niece, a Gen Z, says, Dave, let's rock and roll. Let's start doing videos. Let's get some reels out there. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. She followed me around for 2 days and started developing content. My social media following went from 800 to 10,000 quickly. And I was like, what just happened? And so I
After
was like,
35 years, right?
yeah. So
you can't do surgery on yourself, David.
yeah. So start, just do it. Just get started.
Love it.
We all love the idea that, quick content is also going to be viral content. It's not always going to happen. There's definitely like data on like it's 1 in like 1 billion, chance that happens, but it happens, and it's insane. And it's awesome, but that content might not always be the best content that puts your brand into light. So that being said, I said last panel is understanding where you can push your brand and to what extent as well. Are you willing to have fun or experiment? I think that can help you feel more personable. Social media is for entertainment. We think all the best marketing you don't feel marketed to. So you want to feel fun and realistic, and maybe that's what your success story was as well, is that you weren't so hard on yourself. But that being said, you still have to have the other brand placements in it ready to go, your messaging, who you are. So when, hopefully if you get an influx of people that they understand who you are and they want to follow you and engage with you in a, monetary way.
Awesome. Okay, so any questions on social media before we kick it to Andrew? Yes.
It's really good for SEO. It just builds reputability. Try not to trip over my words. It just bolsters your rank as a professional, depending on what you're blogging about. So maybe getting again, going back to your clients, asking about feedback, things where you've seen success stories, case studies, things like that you can really speak on and put yourself into a really good light. That can, again, be a testimonial in itself. A lot of people that coming to you might not be prepared to invest in you just yet, but they might remember that blog and be like, when I am ready, I will go back to this person. So I wouldn't set blogs. I haven't dealt with a lot of like companies that do a lot of blogs, but I would say that don't throw them to the curb just yet. They're going to be benefiting you in a lot of ways.
And maybe just take the word blog out of it and just say, like, how often do you update your website, if not for posting a blog? A lot of clients, they would say, every 6 months, like we're evaluating our services or whatever. Whereas a blog is an opportunity to kind of be an expert in a subject matter and have a lot of words that people are searching for, and if you were to approach me like a social media manager and say, we blog twice a month, and it's not all ChatGPT, and it's authentic. It can be a little bit of that too, but that's your content strategy, whatever you need. But that tells me, like, think about how many times you can repurpose that content. I can break a long format blog into like 5 different social posts. Give it to me. Like, that tells me that's a good client. I'm going to ask them to film a 1-minute reel on this. I'm going to have a 5 carousel infographic on 5 steps you need to take to X, things like that. So it kind of helps to write your social content, which eliminates time in content creation, So I think you can use it to your benefit if, instead of saying it's dead.
And a lot of AI is used now to write blogs, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I would just encourage you to try to create blogs that have some personal aspect or some testimonial type of experience or something in there that kind of proves that this isn't just an off-the-shelf white paper from ChatGPT. It's really a good idea to maybe start with that, but then edit it for something a little bit more deeply personal. What I've experienced with a blog is that if people like my blog, they may tend to follow me. I can get them on an email list, and then they start following me on social media. And now I have a regular way of staying in touch with them and sell them something.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Andrew?
Okay, so the next resource I want to tell you about is called Statista. So it's the top statistics portal in the world. So it's a really great resource. You can get to it again through our website to get free access. And I've got some examples of some of the reports in here. So lots of things on digital trends. So the latest marketing, how to write, who's using what platform, that kind of thing. It also has dossiers on different companies about their strategies. And all the reports are really full of lots of graphics and infographics which you can drop into different things. So really fantastic marketing reports, trends, industry outlooks. So whatever your industry is, you can probably find a report about what's coming next to try and prepare for those kind of things. So that's Statista, and now we're going to go on to the library panel.
I want to talk a little bit about the marketing tools that each of us here already own. And so, Andrew and Austin, thank you for being here. These guys have been great to work with, but I want to now drill you with a few questions and see what you guys think. So how does the library's small business service fit in with the overall mission of the library? Why do you guys do this?
Yeah, so we've always had small business resources, but they used to be, dusty books on a shelf. So we've obviously libraries have developed and things have changed. So part of the library's mission is to provide access to resources for people, whatever it is, whether it's literacy, we've got a career center here. So it's making resources available, especially that people wouldn't otherwise have. So we've got things like 3D printers, we've got a recording studio. So we want to share those resources and make them available. So it just fits in with our mission to support the community, because small businesses really make the community and they're the backbone of the community.
Yeah. You talk about the recording studio. I know podcasting is starting to become a bigger thing for, and going back to like social media and marketing that we've been talking about all day. Talk to us a little bit about the podcasting or those recording studios that you guys have. Where are those located and how do people access those?
Yeah, so we have a full recording studio at the River Center branch downtown, and that's also our biggest maker space. So we have like laser cutters, movie making stuff. Don't know, that's probably not the best word for it, but you know what I mean. So you can actually record your own podcast. It's open to the public, and we'll teach you what to do, and then you can kind of book space, record your podcast, record video content. We do have a kind of on-the-go podcasting equipment here at this branch, which you can also book and use.
Awesome. And so when we talk about the resources you've already talked about today, and even kind of the podcasting and all, what do these resources cost an individual or a company here in Baton Rouge? Okay,
so well, just for Statista that I was just showing you, each one of those reports to an individual would cost $500. And there's over, I think, 20,000 reports in there. An annual subscription to that would cost $11,000 to an individual or a company. Let's see, Data Axle's about $5,000 a year for a subscription, but that doesn't cover all the modules that we have. So there's a ton of value in those. And then some of them like Gale Business Plan Builder, which we'll get into in the next session. Tech startups got bought out by library tech companies, just like in any other tech industry. So a lot of the resources aren't actually available to the public through a private subscription.
Right. So if a small business owner just access the resources that you guys shown today, are you saying that's almost like $20,000 worth of software that they would be paying for on the street?
Yeah, look how much money we've saved you in just a couple of hours.
Yeah. That's really good. So, okay. So, and how like, I know this is super elementary, but I had to ask these questions. So I'm going to ask them, how do they actually access these things? 5 seconds, Mary said.
5 seconds? Okay. So for anything in our digital library, like those databases, they can be accessed through our website, which is www.ebrpl.com. You click the tab at the top of the page that says the digital library, and that brings you the full list of all of our online databases. Those can be accessed in the library, and all of our business ones can also be accessed from home. So you can bring the library home with you or to your workplace. You can also book a business librarian and I can come to your workplace and walk you through it.
Yeah, right. I was just going to say, that's what we really like to walk people through, because it's one thing to say, oh, we've got this resource, emergent intellect Dickerhoof. I mean, those names mean nothing. So if we can sit down and have a one-on-one to you and find out exactly what you need, we can show you which resource does what and how to use it. So kind of cater the resources to your specific need rather than just throw a bunch of names out and say, here you are, go get them.
Okay, and so for small business owner to come and do that, what do they need to do first?
If they want to come see me, well, let me back up. So for most of our reference materials and stuff in the digital library, they can just pop in a library branch and the librarians there should be able to assist them. If they want more specific business help, they can give our reference department here a call and book me. They can email me at smallbusiness@ebrpl.com. I believe in all of your folders, there is a packet of papers that should have a QR code that you can scan that brings you directly to my calendar where I can be booked. I have it right here on my person as well. And you can just pick a time and date from my calendar and just book me. You can book me here at the main library. You can book me at a more convenient library branch, or again, I can be booked to meet you at a public place in the community. So if you want to meet at CC's and talk business, I will come to CC's and talk business with you.
But only CC's. Only CC's?
No, anywhere, any public place.
All right. So one thing that's true, though, is that for anybody to access this, they have to be a patron of the library, right?
Yeah, so you do need a library card.
And how hard is that to get?
Not hard. Just need a picture ID, and they're free, of course. And we have reciprocal borrowing agreements, what it's called. But basically, it means kind of in 8 parishes around East Baton Rouge, you can also get a library card with us.
Okay, so so Austin, you talked a little bit about guidance. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? So if somebody needs to book a one-on-one session with you, you obviously sound like you're mobile. You'll go to their office and meet them. But what does that look like here? Or is that how do you kind of normally do those one-on-one sessions?
So a one-on-one business session is kind of like a specialized reference interview. So if you've ever been to a reference desk at a library and asked a question, even if that question was just, can you help me find this book? It's a takeoff on that. So it's very much a specific business-oriented reference interview. So a lot of what I'll do is when we sit down with somebody, again, I'm mobile, I bring my laptop with me in case I need to show any of our online databases. And then we will sit down, talk a little bit about your business. I want to hear what you're doing and what you're looking to do. Try and identify any pain points. I'll ask a lot of clarifying questions to see if we can figure out where your gap is. And then I'll just try and see if we have, apply my librarian brain to that information and say, okay, well, you can maybe check out this database and that will get you this information. Here's how you can run a search for that. Here's a legal guide that might walk you through certain steps for what you're looking to do next. Or sometimes it gets very creative and we can say, well, maybe none of the business databases are right for you, but guess what? We have this other one that is not intended for business, but it sounds like it might fit a need that you have. And if I don't have anything in the library, which is very, 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 very rare, I may recommend you out to another organization like the Alliance or someone else in the community that might have that information for you.
Awesome. So what do you say to someone who's skeptical about, free means it's not valuable? How do you guys think about that?
Yeah, guess definitely giving those kind of value indicators, saying how much it costs, really showing people what we can actually do, that it's not just information, we're actually giving you actionable sales lists and stuff like that really makes a difference.
How many businesses do you, in the last 6 months, have actually done a good job of leveraging these resources in your team?
Yeah, a good example.
They're like, that's not a question on the script.
No, I'll start. Well, we've had some, I can't speak about specific numbers, but we do have some kind of repeat customers, which we're always really delighted about, which shows the values there. So we have a partnership with Community Coffee. So talking about those training resources like LinkedIn Learning and Udemy, we actually set up Community Coffee employees with library cards, and they get assigned training opportunities through their training division. So we do that in partnership. So we're delighted to have that. We of course train our own people using our own resources as well. Those are my good examples.
I can't speak to like our actual database usage and what people are pulling from there, but I can say, like, in terms of like people who have booked me and who I've spoken to, we probably see between 2 and 3 people a week, or business owners coming in seeking that kind of assistance that we provide for them.
But we're here today to let everybody know we have capacity, right? We want to see more. We can support more small business owners, right?
I could do it all day, every day. Let's go.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, and we have some people that we've kind of got the relationship already, so they just email us, oh, can you give me, I need all the businesses in this block around Bluebonnet. Can you give them to me? And then, yeah, sure. So I'll just send them a spreadsheet back.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, Austin, for you, like, what's maybe been like a biggest aha moment, or maybe like a success story, even without naming names, of somebody that you're really proud of, someone who's been a super user of the library system and how you've seen that help them grow their business?
Yeah, Go Ride has been a great advocate. They were recently featured in our libraries, what's the name of the article? Libraries Change Lives.
Change lives.
And he moved here, I believe, after Katrina. And Go Ride is a downtown-based business that is bicycle tours and like fun party rides that you can do with your friends. And we got him in with, I think Gale Business Plan Builder was the big one for him. So he was able to kind of like step up his like vision for his own business with that tool. He also made a couple other connections through using some of our other databases as well, to other local businesses. So I think he used some of our, like, through Data Axle business to business tools. And as well, a lot of people in the tech sphere really enjoy Data Axle. I get a lot of compliments on Data Axle and its powerful suite of tools to pull not just, business data, but also consumer and lifestyle data in the community so that they can kind of like create specific targeted marketing and also have that information available.
Yeah. So let's talk about Data Axle, right? So we're talking about, that's a $5,000 a year software cost to a company or an individual that you can get free access to. So if anybody here, and we would encourage all of you, if you can, to join this workshop that's coming up on Thursday, but what should somebody walking into that expect to get out of that workshop?
Well, you'll probably walk away with an actionable sales list, if you're selling, that is. Or really, you'll walk away with something in your hand or on your flash drive that you'll be able to use, whether it's B2B or you're looking for consumers, new movers. Maybe if you're electrical, you want to find all the people who've just moved in the last 6 months. We can get you a list of those people. So maybe they don't have an established guy that they call yet.
Yeah.
So you might have a couple options. Is your business here in Baton Rouge? So they should be able to get a library card as an employee of your business. But also Livingston is in fact a reciprocal with us as well. They would need a good standing Livingston card that they can bring over here, and we can sign them up for a card.
No, it's nationwide, but we can get as specific or as broad as you like.
I think and Canada.
Yeah, and Canada.
US and Canada.
Yeah. Any other questions we have? Yes.
Yeah, so to book space, it's you just have to go onto the website, EBRPL.com, and check under, I think it's under services, and it'll say maker spaces. And there's a few at different branches. So generally, we'll just give you a quick class on how the software works, and then you can just book away and go for it from there. And we have had some people do prototyping with the 3D printers, or making using the laser cutter to make signs for their business. There's some Etsy-preneurs, if that's the right word, who use the maker spaces.
I thought you were referring to the printing machine. It is the Cricut. We do have Cricuts.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, crickets.
Okay, we have a question in the back.
Yes. For most of our equipment, it is, free use of the equipment. You have to bring in your own supplies and materials. Button materials we keep on hand. I believe we give you an allowance though, just like we do for your prints here. You get $2 on us every day. Then after that, it's 10 cents a page for printing. Buttons, I believe it's a similar situation where like your first 10 buttons are on us. And then anything over that, I think it's like 5 cents a button. That is a great question. If you've done any research already, I would want to see it, just so that we're not treading over the same material that you've already been through and we can work towards something new. But generally, I've worked with people who just have an idea and have nothing else. So if you've done any paperwork already, if you are already filed as an LLC, if you are looking at changing that, any type of information, if you can identify your own pain points and let me just know those straight off the bat, that makes my job a whole lot easier. But generally, you can come in with just the idea and we can work from there.
Okay, so let's open it up. Curious as to, I know we moved quickly through our topics, but I just want to open up the floor and just see what are some other burning questions that you guys might have, and all topics that we discussed today are obviously open at this point. Yes.
I have a thought that may be relevant here, maybe not. As a fractional chief marketing officer, my role is typically to get the global picture and then to execute in places that need it the most urgently, and then to make sure that all the parts work together. So think of me as an orchestra conductor, and I'm looking for specific players that are experts in their field. So pursuant to your question, how do I know if this is working right, if this is working? I think looking at it from a strategic level, like a fractional person or a CMO would do, I'm going to be looking at all these pieces and trying to bolster the ones that are not up to par, and trying to analyze and see what, based on what the goals and objectives are and what your projections are and all that kind of stuff, what your resources are, what assets are available, what are not. And I'm going to be looking at it like that. A lot of times that happens at the agency level as well. So I would incorporate a quarterly or at least twice a year review of all those things and say, here's the state of the union with our marketing. Where are we heading? Do we have the tools? What's coming? What do we need? And it's going to reveal a lot of shortcomings, but that's okay. That's what you want. And you can address those things one at a time. I know all of us here have talked about strategy. Every one of us would sit down and meet with somebody and say, we see some holes. And I would say, take advantage of that.
Do you feel like you have the time to stay on top of things, to have the annual meetings, to have the quarterly meetings? So that's typically like being intentional is always the first step, and just taking that time. Like David's saying, a lot of times what we see is just too much time passes. If you're a business owner, you're focused on the business. A lot of times your head is in that direction. Just force in those monthly touch points, whether they're big or small. 30 minutes makes a huge difference. Every quarter, try to make it more intentional. Delegate. If somebody else can come in and kind of lead those different meetings. I'm not sure your business or what the setup is, but that can be a massive help as long as you're just taking time to take a breath. I would also look at the current mediums that you've been using, evaluate those. Are they working? The new stuff that's coming is not like it's going to take away from the current per se. Everything that's new is going to be a different tool. Social media came out and everyone's like, I'm going to use social media and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to do this great thing. It's just another tool. All it is just another tool of how you market. AI, it's another tool. If you know how to use it well and you can use it in a way that can help you, it's great. It doesn't necessarily mean it's necessary for you to use it, but think of it in that way. Evaluate where you are currently, what's working, what's not, and then look at the new items or the new buzz things and say, can I use those with my business? Not I should. Don't just go and do the first trend or go out and grab the first thing because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, I like to think of things like bird by bird. Just do one thing at a time. One thing at a time. And I, with all my clients, I don't know if this structure might work, but it plays on what Josh said, but all of my clients are small businesses and they hire me for social media marketing, email marketing, website management primarily. We have a recurring meeting on the calendar once a month where we talk about the next month's content, right? We're going to be talking about August content in July. And that's the only time that small business owner stops to talk about anything marketing. So I kind of start to become like, well, we heard, what about one of my clients is a fishing rodeo, this app that can send push notifications on weigh-in results. Can you look into app idea, like alternatives for next year's rodeo? Yes. So like then we kind of, so I feel like if that, as simple as having something recurring, and I am reporting analytics at that meeting too. So I'm reporting on June, talking about August in July. So I just feel like even just a pause, sometimes those meetings are a little longer than I'd like because it's the only time that business owner stops and talks about anything to do with marketing. So.
And that's not small business owners either. It's large companies. Everyone struggles with taking the time, putting the head down, and taking the initiative to do that. So don't feel like you're out of place or you're not, you're alone. Everyone struggles with that, but just set time.
What type of business are you? So pay Google search is a good like immediate I mean, it's you pay Google and your ad shows up and people go to your website. So it's very quick and in short term. But like Josh was saying, the goal would be over time, the natural rankings of Google are going to start to work in your favor, and you can kind of ease up a little bit on that paid component because your organic search rankings are starting to rise. But there's to really answer that question though, there's so much that goes into the technical side of it on the organic side that it's hard for any of us to really know kind of where you're at right now without really looking under the hood. So
the first question everyone's going to think is AI, right? Because that's just like, ooh, AI and like Terminator, they're all going to come and the world's going to end. But I think
That's why I thank them every time. Thank you.
Yeah. You are great. Thank you for answering my questions. I am not an idiot, I promise.
Please write this for me. Thank you.
Yes. You're the best. I would say that's going to be the top of mind for any conversation right now. But again, like I said earlier, it's a tool. If we learn how to use it and we can harness it and use its power to our advantage, it can be very helpful. Like anything else, it's going to potentially change and adjust certain job sets or certain things, from creativity to strategy to all that. But the ones who pivot and learn how to use it as a tool will stay on top.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in real quick. So kind of piggybacking off of that, so we're closely watching how Google is going to evolve because of AI. So one of our guys was in Boston a couple of weeks ago at a conference geared towards SEO, and almost every session was talking about how organic search is going to be changing as a result of AI. And I'm sure you guys have seen, if you go to Google right now and you search for something, you're going to get those AI generated results at the very top. And, there was an article recently where major publishers are not happy, Washington Post, Forbes, Business Insider, some of those sorts of companies, because a lot of the organic traffic that they used to get over the years has really dropped off as a result of those AI answers. And so I think Google is trying to figure out what they want to do, and of course, they make a lot of money by having those paid ads at the very top of Google and by sending, traffic to major publishers and things of that nature. So I think even they're a little gun shy and sort of testing out things and then changing things and then going back to what they were doing originally. And I think with the major publisher dilemma, what they have said is, okay, if you go to Google and you search for something that's a little more historical in nature, they'll give you the AI results. But if you're searching something that they consider a trending news topic, then they will send you to the publisher. And so I think they're trying to figure out what kind of guardrails that they want to have. But I think overall, I mean, our business very much relies on Google. So we are, it is a little scary for us. We're like, oh, okay, where is this going to end up? And so it's, yeah.
I will say with social change is not something that I'm unused to. The algorithms change all the time. Like what was working 2 months ago, 3 months ago is no longer working. I have to be constantly learning and pivoting and, learning for my clients and the things that I have to do. I will say that there's a lot of concern that we're becoming dumber because of AI, but really it's like, again, it's a tool in our arsenal at this point. If we don't use it, we're really not helping ourselves. The thing is understanding how to use it in the best way possible. I would say that my ChatGPT is trained exceptionally well, because I've looked up, it took a while to do it, but because I had to figure out the kind of questions I have to ask it. It's an essential tool for me as, you know, kind of the social lead at Tilt, is because I don't really have another sounding board to go off of. I can't call my best friend and be like, hey, girl, how's this sound? Because she doesn't know what I'm talking about. So it's like, so ChatGPT can be a place to brainstorm, to spit out ideas. You can throw your business plan at it and be like, hey, take a look at this. And it's unbiased. So it's going to tell you what it's seeing. It's going to see some holes. It's going to go off of information that it's been fed through Google, however it's been trained. So you know that it's pulling from sources. It even says at the bottom that it can make mistakes. So that's where that human element and that human creativity that we're always going to AI's, like we said, is going to change up the field a little bit, because we're going to be able to implement it more and use it. It's going to help us be more efficient at certain points in our job. But there's always going to be that human element that's going to make something really special. AI can do photos, it can do video now. That's insane and kind of scary as well from videographer and photography standpoint, and also brand design and all this stuff. But it's like, you can tell there's something not quite right about it. And that's where, when that human element, that human creativity comes in, this is where the hope is, because it's special and it's hitting us in a more of an emotional point that we as humans crave. We have that emotional connection and we can see it in the art play through, whether we realize it or not. So that's the hope there. Of course, there's always the fear, and you just have to see what's happening. But there's no need to be afraid of it. Like, you've got to embrace it and use it to your benefit, because if you don't, then that's where that fear is going to stay.